Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to The Root of All Evil. Queen Amadai TV presents The Root of All Evil. So with that being said, please make sure you go ahead and like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Hello, Queen Adia, Marilyn, Bangani, Sweet Pea, Jasmine, Kenla, Sylvia, Hiram X is Black, Queen Trina B. Okay, so let's get started. Now, as I told you, this story is about some brothers who were police officers and they were robbing banks in Myrtle Beach. Okay? So let's get into it, people. Let's get into it. Everyone, please go ahead and give the video a like, if you could be so kind. Okay, North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Police search for bank robber, third in 4 days. Let me put my glasses on, people. This print is kind of small. Okay, now law enforcement officials were on the hunt for the bank robber of the TD Bank branch on Saturday morning in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. At least the third Horry County bank robbery in 4 days. Now, city spokesman Pat Dowling said the robbery unfolded right before 9 a.m. at the branch that was located at 1201 Sea Mountain Highway. A teller had called the police and said a man left the bank with a bag containing an undisclosed amount of money, a die pack, and also 2 teller drawers. Now, a witness at the drive-in window saw the robbery and tried to get the robber's tag number. This is what Dowling said. But as the thief left the bank, he reportedly waved a gun at the witness, who moved away in his car. Now, Dowling said he didn't know for certain whether the gun was used in the robbery. No one was injured in the incident. The robber was described as a white man who was wearing a white old man mask and baggy clothes. He was 5'10", and he was 5'10" and about 200 pounds. Now, the FBI had to get involved, but this wasn't the first time that bank had been robbed. In the 90s, it was also the target of the Bellamy brothers, a trio of bank robbers charged in 9 bank holdups from Murrells Inlet to Calabash, North Carolina. Altogether, the brothers reportedly stole more than $600,000 before they were caught. Now, it was in 1997 when Claude and Larry Bellamy were charged with stealing $34,000 from what was then the Anchor Bank in North Myrtle Beach. Now, the 3 Bellamys were found guilty on multiple charges and sent to prison in 2000. Claude and Larry are not scheduled to be released until 2042. The third brother, Alvin, was let out in 2008. Now, this is the third Horry County bank robbery in less than a week. So this bank is one that's always getting robbed down there in Myrtle Beach. One of the main ones that's getting robbed. And so now, before I get further into the story about the Bellamy brothers, let me tell you something about them. So they concocted this elaborate plan to rob these banks. And I think they got too greedy because, like they said, they robbed at least 9 of them that was reported. But at the end of the day, the way they got caught, or the reason the police caught on to them, is because they were so good at doing it. The police started thinking, this has to be an inside job. Like, this has to be somebody who knows something about law enforcement. Maybe somebody who works in law enforcement, right? So with that all being said, hold on, I'm checking the fact real quick. So with that all being said, one thing that set the police on the idea that it was cops involved is when they went back and watched the surveillance video footage from inside the bank. The way one of them was holding their gun, their stance with their feet spread apart, and the way they were holding their gun with their arms outstretched and their hand cupped under the other one, it's exactly the way police are trained to hold their guns. The stance, the way his feet were planted, that's the same way the police are trained to stand. So when the police are looking at this, they said that person has got to work in law enforcement. And the thing is this, one of the reasons they were getting away with it so good is because the fact that they work for law enforcement, one of them was always the first one called to the scene of a bank robbery. Now, can you imagine? He's actually the robber, but he's there investigating himself. So, of course, if he finds any evidence that they may have left, you know what he's going to do with that, right? So that's crazy. So anyway, let me continue. Now, hold on. Let me get this article up. The Bellamy brothers bank robbing lawmen. Now, a wave of North Carolina bank robberies got so big in the 1990s that the New York Times took notice. The average haul was $11,722 per job. So every bank they robbed, they were getting at least $11,000. Oftentimes, the criminals were too high on drugs or too impulsive to take the necessary precautions. And authorities usually were able to catch them quickly, according to NYT, of the late financial journalist David Morrow. But the Bellamy brothers, who created their own Carolina's bank robbing spree during the same time period, well, they accrued a much better record. Okay, so this isn't what the Bellamys were doing. This is what the average bank robber is doing, what they were saying. Yeah, the average haul for anybody else who was robbing a bank, that's the most they would get, like 11,000. And they said most of the times the person would be high off of drugs or whatever, and so they would do something stupid and get caught. But not the Bellamy brothers. The elusive threesome, that's what they called them. The elusive threesome, they averaged around $75,000 per job. So that's how much money they're getting every time they hit a bank. They carefully concealed their identities. They got in and out of the banks in no more than 5 minutes and didn't leave any forensic evidence. Now, it took 9 years for the FBI and the law to finally catch up to them, these masked brothers, and put them behind bars. Now, for the first week, they say they checked to see where the Bellamys were today, like in present time, and look for any clues as to what made the three gainfully employed middle-aged men suddenly turn into felons. But first, here's a recap. Now, they had a forensic file episode about this called Cloak of Deceit. I'm going to show you a clip from that. Because this is where I first heard about this story, was on Forensic Files. I told you, I'm addicted to the ID channel. I saw this years ago. Hold on. Let me read my fair use disclaimer real quick. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Honey, y'all not going to sit here and watch this whole episode like y'all thought y'all were. Of Forensic Files, no less. Let me tell you something, though. Now, he told her, this is your last chance or you're dead. Honey, he wouldn't have had to tell me twice. Say what now? As soon as he said open the vault, I would have opened that vault so quick. First of all, that's not my money, okay? But least, all I would have been thinking is they can print some more. Okay? The quicker you give them what they want, the quicker they will leave. That's all I'd have been thinking. Okay, police, honey. Yes, and so like I told you, you all could see from the stance that they had when they were holding their guns. Weren't they holding their guns just like cops? That is one of the things that got them caught. When they kept examining those tapes, the footage and all that, they start noticing that. And because they were getting in and out so quickly and they were so meticulous that they were going to banks that only had no armed security also. So they were doing their research. But it seems like they got greedy and they just couldn't let well enough alone. Kind of like the movie Set It Off. After they robbed a few banks and they're like, oh, we're going to rob one more. Please, why do people just keep doing it? That's crazy to me. Would have said the numbers to that vote out loud. Okay, yes. Okay, your life is more important than money. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, let's continue, people. So yes, they eventually got caught. Now, beginning in 1990, a trio of robbers began hitting banks in and around Calabash, North Carolina, and Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. In each robbery, 2 armed masked men would corral customers and employees, demand cash, and escape via a waiting car driven by a third accomplice. Doesn't this sound like they kind of got this from Set It Off? Because you know Set It Off came out in the 90s, around 96. They started doing this around 98, 99. I think that may have given them the idea. Because they had the stolen cars, one person waiting in the car outside, 2 of them go in with masks on, take charge, corral the customers and the tellers. That's the same thing Jada and them did in the movie. Pay attention. And they kept robbing the banks too in the movie, just like these fools did. They clearly should have stopped. Quit while they were ahead. So anyway, in each robbery, 2 armed masked men would corral customers and employees, demand cash, and escape via a waiting car driven by the accomplice. Now, after one robbery of $175,000, a good Samaritan wrote down the license plate and chased the vehicle. Now, I know they had to be Mayo because you're doing too much. You got to chase the vehicle of somebody who just robbed a bank? Let me tell you something. That's what I'm not going to do. First of all, that's not my damn money. What am I chasing them for? To just get a pat on the back for clout? Who does this? And if somebody is crazy enough to rob a bank in broad daylight, do you not know they will kill you quick? Some people are just, you know what? I cannot with Ken and Karen because they can just not mind their own business. Honey, I'm not chasing bank robbers. I don't get paid for that. I'm not the police. Let the police do their job. If I do their job for them, how would that make them look? I'm just saying. Anyway. So, says he chased them in the vehicle, but the robbers confronted him with a gun and he fled. Oh, so now you want to run? Now that they got the burner at your head, now you want to run. No, keep on being big and bad. You chasing criminals, remember? Bank robbers no less. Francine says, I'm not getting shot for no one. Me either. Okay? Right. I mean, and it's not even your money. Even if it was your money, you still shouldn't be trying to chase somebody after it when they have a gun and you don't. That's crazy. So they say he fled. Now, the license plate number didn't help because the getaway car was stolen and later abandoned. The mystery men never seemed to use their own vehicles. Oh, because they were smart. Although the assailants never shot or killed any of the bank employees, one of them held a gun to a worker's head and threatened to pull the trigger if she didn't remember the safe's combination. I bet her memory came back real quick when he told her, this is your last try, and you're dead. Now, Sandra Campbell, a teller at First Atlantic Bank, would later testify that one of the men had grabbed her by the throat, dragged her across the floor, and kicked her repeatedly, according to court papers. Now, their prospective getaway was the band of brothers accumulated a total of $600,000 to $700,000 in the course of 8 bank jobs. Now, the threesome enjoyed holding up one particular branch of the North Carolina National Bank in Calabash. They enjoyed it so much that they hit this particular bank 3 times in 1991, 92, and 93. Meanwhile, investigators struggled to identify the thieves. The fact that one of the robbers used a weaver stance That's what they call it. The position that they stand like the police, where they have their feet spread apart and the way they're holding the gun with their arms outstretched, that's called the Weaver stance. So the fact that one of them used the Weaver stance, commonly adopted by law officers when pointing their guns, made them wonder whether he was one of their own, according to Myrtle Beach Police Chief Warren Gales when he did a forensic files interview. Now, the authorities got a big break in 1998. Another Good Samaritan, that's code for nosy ass person. Good Samaritan, no less, please. So anyway, another Good Samaritan, this one at Branch Banking and Trust in Calabash, where the brothers got away with $63,000, scribbled down a getaway car's license number and tried unsuccessfully to chase it. What is wrong with these people out here chasing folks? And you already know that mayo, because you cannot pay a black person to go chase somebody that's just robbed a bank. That's what you're not going to get a black person to do. I'm so sorry. Now, the police traced the speeding 1997 Nissan pickup to a local landscaper. His name was Alvin Bellamy, age 41, and he had 2 strikes against him. Uh-oh, this is where they effed up, people. Now, they took the car from somebody who was related to them who already had 2 strikes. You already know he's going to snitch. So he already had 2 strikes against him. First, in his wallet, he had $117, all in crisp new 5s and ones. Suspicious because $12,000 consisting of only 5s and 1s had been nabbed in a recent robbery, according to court papers. And I bet they took those small bills on purpose when they went into the bank. Pay attention. I bet they went in there and told them to give them smaller denominations of bills, 5s and 1s, because that's less likely to draw suspicion. If you just going around here just spending hundreds, pulling out hundreds everywhere, somebody might get suspicious. So they got 5s and 1s. Now, a second, Alvin, who worked at Coastal Landscape and Maintenance, had 2 brothers in law enforcement. Claude Wendell, age 44, was a former patrolman, first class, who worked for the Horry County Police Department in South Carolina for 12 years. James Larry Bellamy, known as Larry, he was 48, was none other than a lieutenant with the Myrtle Beach Police Department who specialized in investigating crime scenes, including robbery sites. I told you he was investigating himself. Now, Larry had a good reputation and all. At first, Police Chief Gall refused to believe that he was involved, according to Gall's forensic files interview. Now, the fact that all 3 of the brothers, the Bellamys, were modest, probably made it even harder for anyone to think that they could even entertain the notion of robbing banks. They say they didn't flash a lot of cash, didn't buy fancy cars, and didn't live in a rich neighborhood. The trio came from a family of 12 siblings born to Lucille and Clifton Bellamy Sr. in Little River, South Carolina. Now, Clifton Sr. also taught Sunday school and was a deacon at the St. Joseph Missionary Baptist Church and reserved on the board of cable company HTZ Incorporated, according to the Sun News obituary from 2008. He and Lucille, his wife, had been married for 59 years. So clearly they came from a decent family. Now, the Bellamys were well respected in town, and one of their children, Margie B. Livingston, was and still is a South Carolina judge. Wow. This is what they said in a statement to the Sun News Livingston. So they had a sister who was a judge, a magistrate. Now, so what made Alvin, Claude, and Larry Bellamy suddenly turn into Ma Baker's boys? Y'all remember that movie? Now, a case of profound midlife crisis, maybe? Or maybe, as hard as their parents tried, some of those kids had an innate wayward streak. Now, what Forensic Files didn't bother to mention is that while Alvin, Claude, and Larry were perfecting were perfecting post-robbery escape routes. A fourth Bellamy brother was already sitting in jail for a more serious offense. Clifton Bellamy Jr., age 36, he was married to he married someone in North Myrtle Beach, a police officer. Now, ended up killing his girlfriend, Patricia Adams, with a hammer and a pointed instrument on October the 1st of 1986. Adams worked at the Surf Golf and Beach Club and worked there the night that she was pregnant, or when she was pregnant. She and Clifton Bellamy had been fighting over child support, according to court reports. Now, Alvin, Claude, and Larry's motivation was less clear. Police never figured out why they wanted the money badly enough to risk ruining their lives and mortifying their parents. Authorities also never found out why the brothers stashed, or where the brothers stashed or spent the stolen cash. They probably stashed it, because if they had spent it, they would have been able to likely track it, some type of paper trail. But the prosecution had plenty of other evidence to work with, and the three Bellamys were arrested in 2000 and charged with bank robbery, assault with a dangerous weapon, and other related crimes. Now, bank security footage showed a checkered jacket and leather holster used during a robbery that were later discovered in the possessions of the Bellamys. One bank used high-resolution cameras that allowed police to identify Claude's brow line and nose via an excessively large eye opening in his mask, according to court documents. Now, also to the Bellamy's detriment, Alvin had changed his story a number of times under FBI questioning. So he clearly caved. He started nigga-splaining. That's what he started doing. Started nigga-splaining. You know how niggas get nervous? They start saying one thing, and then the pressure comes on, then they start, all these sweat beads start popping off, and all of a sudden, they start backpedaling, and oh, well, I see what had happened was, and all that kind of stuff. Clearly, that's what he did. Now, more bad publicity for the brothers. The FBI was investigating a group of unidentified men who tried to stop a witness from testifying against the Bellamys by threatening to cut his eyes out and kill his family. But the intimidation didn't work. After 2 weeks and 70 witnesses, a jury convicted the brothers on February the 22nd of 2000. Little brother Alvin received 15 years. Larry and Claude got harsher sentences. You know why they got harsher sentences? I'm glad you asked. Because they were police. They were police. And you know what I find that's so interesting? Is because they robbed banks and they were police. So they got harsher sentences because they say police must be held to a higher standard than everyone else. Funny how they don't say that when Mayo police go out here and kill unarmed black people. They don't hold them to a higher standard, do they? No, they don't. So Alvin, the younger brother, got 15 years. Claude and Larry got harsher sentences and got 50 years in federal penitentiary because they betrayed their badges. Now, so far, the only one who has gotten out on 2 feet is Alvin, who left USP Atlanta on July the 3rd of 2008. Claude died while incarcerated at the age of 61 in 2016. His daughter, Nisa Bellamy, described her dad as the strongest man I know in a comment left on an obituary site for him. Ironically, the 300-pound Claude was regarded as the violent member of the trio. Now, the third bank robber, Larry Bellamy, age 67, still resides in FCI McDowell in Welch, West Virginia, along with 1,300 other prisoners, mostly in medium security. Courts rejected Larry's appeal attempts in 2009 and 2011, and he is scheduled for release in 2042 when he will be 90 years old. Clifton Bellamy Jr., the aforementioned killer in the family, is serving his life sentence for homicide in Kirkshaw Correctional Institution, which lists him as having no escape attempts or disciplinary problems. He was shot. He has a shot at parole in 2020. Now, the Bellamy's mother, Lucille, died in 2015 at the age of 81, and her obituary didn't include any biographical information about her, but raising 12 kids probably took up the better part of her bandwidth. So most of them ended up in prison. Okay? No, he's not getting out anytime soon. Right? So that's crazy. Now but here's the thing. They were police officers, two of them, and they were going around robbing banks. I'm just wondering, now I'm not saying this is a good idea, but I'm just curious as to why they didn't just do what the rest of the crooked cops do. Rob the drug dealers. I'm just wondering. Obviously, they didn't see Training Day. I'm just saying. Now, we know all cops don't do that, but clearly some of them do. I mean, hey, they had to arrest an entire police department down there in Florida for laundering money for drug cartels. Not to mention, Sheriff Alex Villanueva has admitted that they have gangs in their department. Surely the gangs rob drug dealers. I'm pretty sure of it. Okay? And then, matter of fact, there was a police officer a few years ago who got sentenced to 15 years because they were robbing drug dealers for their drugs and then taking the drug to another side of town, giving it to other drug dealers who work for them and having them sell it and giving them the money. Now, I think they got sentenced because they were keeping the money all for themselves and not sharing it with the rest of the thugged out officers who were clearly corrupt like them. That's just my opinion. Okay, so anyway, there you have it, people. That is the nefarious story of the Bellamy brothers. So let that be a lesson to you. Don't go out here robbing banks and trying to commit crime. Okay? Want to know something that you should realize about all these people who go out here and commit these crimes that I'm telling you about? They end up one of two ways, people. Either dead or in jail. There are never any happy stories in these true crime stories that I tell you, right? Pay attention. There's never anything good that comes of it. So therefore, yeah, we should never be doing any of those things. Okay? I'm throwing you a lifeline because clearly some of you are questionable at best. Carol says they got sloppy. Judah Queen said, I'm glad you asked. Oh, you all are so crazy. And anyway, with that all being said, let me close out this broadcast exactly in another episode of I Almost Got Away. Right. So thank you all for tuning back in once again. Make sure you like and share the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur. Also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27. Katia said, not questionable, Queen. And on Twitter at dgoddess27, on Clubhouse at QueenAShakur. Okay? With that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. I hope you enjoyed the show. And I hope to see you all in the chat Monday, right? At 9 a.m. for your morning wake-up call. I'm taking a break tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, people, let me remind the mods again. I am having the meeting tomorrow afternoon at 12 p.m. I'm going to send out the invitations. As I told you, I sent the StreamYard invite. Ignore that because I can only get 10 people, and there's more of you than 10. So I'm going to have to do a Zoom call. And I'm going to send that shortly because I'm going to start setting that up as soon as I get off of here, okay? Any of the mods on here who have not sent me your information, your email or whatever, please send it to me so I can send it out, all right? So with that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. And until next time, Royals, I hope to see you all back in the chats. Enjoy the rest of this weekend. Talk to you again soon. Peace.